welcome to another episode of War Hero to Superhero, helping military veterans and first responders transform their lives from the bedroom to the boardroom. It is hot everywhere, isn't it? 116 degrees in Washington. I used to live there. It was like 70. I don't know what happened, but we're talking about escape the heat this week. I didn't know it was going to be a storm of heat, but we went over and talked about it anyway. You know, as the heat's going up across the nation, it's beating us up. Life can turn up the heat too. It even happened with my guests, and we'll get into that in a few minutes. And normal in the world of AC and everything else, you can turn it on or go hide in the shade or go under a rock. I wouldn't recommend going under a rock. But life doesn't always provide those rocks when the heat gets dialed up, and it gets ratcheted really high, doesn't it? What do we do? Do you go over and just take your clothes off and just run naked? No, we definitely don't do that. These next 2 weeks, we'll talk about that. Our next guest is a man of fortitude. He was even going through the fires to get logged in every single piece of technology, and he made it through. So we're going to bring Arthur Burris in here, and he's going to share his story on how to go over and keep going when everything's not going well and you think it's not going to end. So I'm going to bring him in, and he's going to share his story. Hey, Arthur, thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me, Daniel.
Yeah, very good fortitude. You just proved my point. I put that in there right before the post, and it's like, hey, God's providence is proving it. So our first question for you is, you've been in the military, you had that civilian transition, you worked in a lot of corporate jobs, you climbed up the ladder, you were a baller, and then you decided to do the dangerous path of an entrepreneur. May you share a story why you keep going, even when sometimes it might not feel that it ends? Because I know I've kind of chased this journey with you and I've heard the stories, but I want our audience to hear how you keep going.
The purpose, you know, the way you look at it is whatever you want to do is a purpose in life. And then my purpose is, how do I transfer the knowledge I gained post the military, even, you know, from the military, which taught me a lot of discipline and a lot of teamwork, you know, but surround yourself with the right people, with the right capabilities, but that end purpose of how you want to make a societal impact across the world. That is what keeps me going. And it's that purpose because as life goes through the fires, as you stated, through the heat, it kind of validated the purpose of creating the business, because not only did I want to just transfer my knowledge to help others, but going through the trials and tribulation of almost facing homelessness myself, which is part of one of the societal impacts that we want to impact, it gives me true purpose that we're doing the right thing. And now you have a true connectedness to being empathetic to other people.
Wow. Because that was really hard. If I remember the story, it was like this year, like in the pandemic, like you hear the stories in the news of things, the moratoriums and other things, and people struggling and COVID and whatnot, but you usually don't, quote unquote, meet those people. And that's why I think we're a lot of disillusioned sometimes. So how did you go over and survive with that? I remember all the struggles we talked about through the text, but how did you go over and survive that? Because it was like almost like on the brink end, if I remember correctly.
If it wasn't for my cousin throwing me a lifeline to say, hey, you know, come home to California, Los Angeles area, you know, I have a place for you. Keep focusing on what you need to do so you have one less worry to think about. And, you know, everything changed from that perspective. You know, now the economy is opening up. I found the right developer to finish the app as part of the business, you know, because I went through some trials and tribulation with previous developers. So that's part of going through that fire and that journey and to keep going. And if it wasn't for my cousin's lifeline, you know, I probably would not be in the situation where I am today to help others.
Well, that's really cool that you had those lifelines. They had those friends and family in there, because sometimes you meet those veterans that don't, and they're just left behind. And the system can take so long, even if they're a great system. Sometimes they have so many that are in the system by the time they process your name. I know I almost went homeless because of several systems myself. And if it wasn't because of a church or someone else stepping up or a random check from insurance one day, that was fantastic. It was like the whole rent money. I'm glad I canceled that insurance. I was like, but it was impromptu. So what did you change to go over and to start thriving? Like now you're starting to get the right developers and everything. Like what mental, emotional, or spiritual tactics did you have to change to go from now just surviving to go into thriving?
It's keeping the faith. I mean, I would just have to say somebody's watching over me, an angel or God is watching over me, because I was literally at that blank, that brink. But the strength and the will to just keep going, knowing that you're doing the right thing, and that issue got averted. So willpower. I just kept believing. I kept believing in myself. I know I'm doing the right thing. I even had friends that said, you you have definitely overcome a lot to keep this going, because a lot of people would have just quit, gave up, said, hey, we went through this journey, we tried, but I would not give it up, because I walked away, from the corporate world, 3 years ago to go down this journey. So I had to keep going. And going through the issues I went through just gives me that additional willpower to say, I have to do this. There's a reason why I'm going through this. So,
yeah, because you have way more skills than I do. I think I probably would have went over and like, wait a minute, I have all these degrees, I have all these connections. I think I'm like, all right, I might take a sabbatical, go get myself up and going, but you kept going. So what major lessons did you learn in that season?
Tight network. What I also learned is, if you're going to go down, or when you go down the entrepreneurial path, stay within your immediate network or your immediate friends network. Do not go outside that network. Because I went outside the network thinking the good in people, and not saying that people are bad or intentionally bad, but with the combination of factors, the pandemic and things, behaviors changed, right? So one thing I would, lesson learned is stay within your immediate family or friends network, to look for mentorship, services, advice, and things of that nature. Definitely stay in contact with your family, and luckily, my cousin's like my brother to me. There's a 5-year gap. So luckily we stayed in contact. He's probably the only one of my immediate family that I've really been in contact with throughout my years, living years. So I'm thankful for that.
And that's really awesome. So how are you equipping yourself now? Because the future heat waves are going to happen. You get to like 6-figure, 7-figure, 8-figure. We think it's like, oh, it's all buttercream and everything else, and everything's rainbows and sunshine. But those things happen. Like, what are you preparing for yourself, and how are you equipping yourself to those bigger trials in future heat waves?
Well, what the pandemic actually has provided a lesson to everyone. They consider this a black swan event, so to speak. It's nothing that you can predict, right? It's not something that's in a risk model that you can just factor in. So what does it teach you is always maintain your education, learning more, always strive to continuously learn, add additional capabilities, stay in contact with your network, and definitely prepare for events that are unexpected, whether it's financial savings, definitely your loved ones, right? Whether it's friends, family, your significant others, because, hopefully, this kind of unexpected event brought people closer. May have caused a divide in others, but you definitely need to surround yourself with loved ones, and you definitely have to think ahead and prepare for these unexpected events, whether it's savings or, just connectivity with people, because there were a lot of people that had mental issues as a result of this, depression, because they couldn't interact with people outside their home because, it was shut down or locked down.
Oh, yeah. There was a lot of that, to say the least. So now that you're going over and you got a tool belt now fully equipped, what resources do you have in your tool belt that you can share a couple of those tools with us so we can be equipped?
From a business perspective, well, I'll break it down from, let's say, people, process, and information. And then let's say technology. So these are things that you would apply in the business world, but you could also apply in your personal life. So from a people perspective, stay connected. Stay connected from support perspective, right? Luckily, I have my cousin from a support perspective, one day from homelessness, right? From a process perspective, I would just say you have to prepare for unexpected events, savings, skilling, your upskilling, your education, and all of that. So never get too comfortable. I think a lot of people were upended because they were comfortable, in certain roles, positions, wherever they were in life. And as you know, any accident, event, or incident will change the outcome of anyone's life, whether
Oh
it's
yeah.
an individual or it's a family member or a close friend. From information, just stay on top of the news, stay on top of certain events locally across the world, because those are the chain of events that can enable, the processes that you need to start looking forward. Once we heard about the global pandemic and will it impact someone in wherever you're at in the world, in the U.S., you have to arm yourself with that information. And from a technology, just stay current. Make sure you're connected to the web. Make sure you're connected. You have a mobile device. For those that maybe don't have connectivity to Wi-Fi, don't have a mobile device, then I think this is an opportunity for people to help other people stay connected, because there could be a lost family member or a friend that could use your help. So it just gives us additional purpose to help others along the way, so everyone can stay in tune with society.
Yeah. The cool thing now, pros and cons, is Amazon Sidewalk shares some of the Wi-Fi out in the Wi-Fi city. So I know I struggled pretty bad at one point, and I had an iPad, or not iPad, an iPod, and I had to go from place to place to make phone calls. One of the jobs I had when I almost went homeless taking this job, I literally had to make my iPhone a Wi-Fi device and then got a Skype line for like $3 to keep the interview, which actually kept the job. And he asked why the number changed. I said, well, I'm hustling here at a factory in between and everything else, and my phone bill got shut off. So, and it was just providential that understanding technology currently in $3, it wasn't much, but it was a lifeline, a savior to go get that job. So definitely stay current in your technology. I totally agree with that. And speaking of technology, I'd love to hear what you're doing lately and everything else. And we didn't get a chance to put up a link, but if you could describe on like, what are you doing in the technology world and how you're helping others?
So in the technology world, we're developing a lifestyle management marketplace, which will be in a mobile app, in all devices, where people can schedule and request their frequently recurring services and actually personalize it for on-demand or scheduling in brick and mortar locations. But the key is, as part of our purpose, societal impact, is with every single transaction, there's the capability for them to donate to a cause that they're passionate about, whether it's for like me, it's food inequalities, homelessness, children health, eye care, specifically retinoblastoma, which is woefully underfunded. So I had an opportunity to work with that group. And then we also contribute as well. So that's part of our purpose of making a societal impact with every single transaction.
And is there a name to this app, or is it still private?
Yes. So the name of the app is called Porteiro. It's Portuguese for concierge. And it should be launching here next month, in a couple of weeks. We're in the final stages with the economy reopening up. It gave the opportunity. Actually, with the pandemic, we actually learned a lot and enabled us to pivot slightly into a couple of niche markets that I will not share right now. But we were actually able to learn from the pandemic some opportunities that we can help, to bring people back to work and making themselves some revenue or income to sustain their life.
That's awesome, because we want to get the goal is to get the 5 to 7 revenue streams. Don't rely on that one. I've learned that lesson really hard and really fast.
We're not promised tomorrow, right? As if anything has happened, especially whatever job you have, there's no guarantee.
No, there's definitely not. You can go in and go in there, and I got stories on stories, but this is about you, not about me. So thank you, Art, for going over and joining and having that fortitude to keep fighting the fight, even with the internet connection and everything else. And Art is one of our Escape the Heat guests, and this month we go over and we're uplifting their brand, and because they've learned to escape the heat and to pass those lessons to you. But we give a blessing here at War Hero to Superhero. So it takes 3 seconds to go over and to get a view on Facebook. And you just don't watch it with the auto caption. You actually have to click the button to go into the video. So every time you click on it just for 3 seconds, I know it's torture to go over and listen to auditory instead of reading it nowadays, but if you can click that for 3 seconds, Art gets a view. If Art gets the most views within 5 days, because we have a 2-week competition instead of our normal week competition, if he gets the most views in 5 days, he'll get uplifted on the television show War Hero to Superhero, now in 15 different platforms on Legrity Media. You'll hear more about that tonight at 9 p.m. if you can watch Legrity Unplugged. If he gets 5,000 views in 5 days, he goes over and gets a television commercial for his app across not only all the social media I do for that entire month, also through the TV show, which is broadcasted in 213 countries. So you get a free commercial just for 5,000 views. So you got to share, Art. We try to make it unbiased. We make it unbiased. I don't share it at all. It's in your report. So we want to give you that blessing for you. If you get the most views, we get back with you. You get uplifted to a TV show. 5,000 views get you a free commercial across all social media and also our digital TV platform, Legrity. So
looking forward to that.
Yeah. So Art, you can close it out for any last comments or a golden nugget or grenade you want to drop. So
I think the quote of the day or the golden nugget of the day is, stay tight and coordinated step with your network, friends and family members. Check in on them, because we're not promised today, we're not promised tomorrow, and follow your passion, so everyone has a purpose in life. Find that one passion that you want to pursue and pursue it.
And that's awesome. We're going to close on that. So follow your passion by clicking that button, all you audience members that are watching. Again, 3 seconds in 5 days. Uplift this man so he can uplift your passion too. So thank you for coming, and we'll catch you on another episode for War Hero Superhero.